It's time to refresh our tier list. In this video, we'll be going over tier 10 medium tanks, as a lot of these tanks got updated with God of Thunder season, and the tanks that didn't, of course, they are now not as strong as they used to be. Also based on previous tier list video, we'll be covering more in detail as to why I feel certain tanks belong in certain tier, and that's why I decided to divide these videos into different classes so it's not unnecessarily long. Let's get started. The first tank on our list is Chisel. Did receive the buff from 400 to 440 alpha, and it did get slight DPM buff as well. However, I do wish it has better view range. The tank is decent, but it doesn't have the DPM of other tanks. It does have the premium APCR. It has the mobility, but the mobility isn't even that good. There are faster tanks than there. So it's decent, but isn't like Leopard that goes 60 or something. So I would put it as a balanced tank. It does have now the 440 alpha with premium APCR, and that is enough. However, I do wish it get Chieftain Pen and at least the 420 view range. Then we have STB1, definitely a tier. Got the alpha buff from 390 to 420. Beautiful gun handling now with the manual siege mode. Also got the accuracy buff. And if you can make the manual siege mode mark, because there is a 0-second transition time, it's almost like automatic. So definitely a tier tank now. Moving on to TVP, it also received reload buff, but the shell velocity and the penetration isn't that great. I wish this tank has party wagons, shell velocity and penetration, that it would be nice, but for now, I would say it's a balanced tank. And we have Urus, another tank that converted into the manual siege mode mechanic, but unfortunately, this tank didn't receive the accuracy buff. And it had its USP of 440 alpha, but now STB has 420, and that's only 20 less than Urus, but STB has way better gun handling, frontally mounted, better DPM, and of course the shell velocity. And Urus is just not there yet. Urus needs some more love as well, but hopefully in the future it does get some love. It does have really good concealment, but other than that, the DPM is just horrendous. So I don't even see the point why a 440 alpha has such a bad reload and gun handling than a 420. Next on the list is CS. The tank got nerfed a while ago and wasn't touched with this update, but since every other tank or most of the tanks got the 420 alpha or the HP buff, this tank kind of a slight nerf to it or power creep, so this is balanced. Progetto, another tank that got buffed with the reload this season. Still the reload is a little bit long, but I would say it's a balanced tank. It has the auto loader reloader mechanic. It has everything else except the raw DPM, but that slight alpha buff, or sorry, the DPM buff, I would say, with this tank in balance as it can rotate around. View range concealment, and does have everything. Nice gun handling as well. Next on the list we have Centuro. It's a reverse auto reloader. Opposite of Progetto, it got buffed multiple times, and you can use both single shot or the auto reloader gun, but the tank didn't receive any alpha buff this season. So now Chisel is a little bit more special because it is 440, but this tank, it does have the 400 alpha and premium APCR, but you know, just because it doesn't have that, didn't get any buff this season, we're gonna put it at balanced. Then we have 121, another tank that was untouched. It was kind of balanced, I guess, because it had 440 alpha, but again, now everything is 420, and the tank doesn't have gun depression. And in the world of tanks or current situation, gun depression is what you need, or you need really good gun handling or DPM. And I think there are other tanks that are just better than this tank, and this tank can use at least gun handling buff. Then we have 121B, same, a 390 alpha, only 7 degrees gun depression. Can't really make that work in most situations. Again, not touched this update. Batch, I did get some love, 2 seconds of reload time. Didn't get alpha buff though. It is balanced, I would say, because it does have that huge clip potential and can assassinate, be a light tank at times as well, but still you have to be careful. Then on the list we have MX30B. This tank did receive the alpha buff. It is like a worse leopard, but I would say the tank is balanced because it does have the speed, mobility, camo. It does have armor that sometimes work. Okay, so not to be reliable, but I like how the tank plays out. I think it's a decent tank, and I would put it as balanced. Next, we have 50B. Unfortunately, the tank got nerfed because it got the alpha buff from 400 to 440, but then 2 to 3 seconds of reload nerf, and also the interclip nerf from 2.5 to 2.7. And now this tank I would put that as balanced because of the longer DPM or slower DPM. Then we have Murad also got an alpha buff from 390 to 420, got the interclip change from 2.5 to 2.7, and still maintaining its 12 degrees of gun depression. This tank still dominating the S tier list because of its 12 degrees of gun depression and its ability to quickly dump the clip. Very, very strong tank, best autoloader, hands down, a tier 10 medium. T62 got buff as well, HP buff, DPM buff, and it has been buffed multiple times as well, so definitely a balanced tank. Only constraint is it doesn't have gun depression or the alpha. They still keep their 320 alpha. That's why they're in the balance, because when trading happens, the tank with gun depression is going to dominate majority of the game, but T62 can farm some if someone makes a push out in the open. Same thing for 140 as well. The tank has everything but the gun depression or the alpha, so hence they stay balanced. Next on the list, we have 430. The tank has good DPM. It does have 390 alpha, but the gun handling is just terrible and doesn't have the gun depression. And just because of that, if it has better gun handling, I would put it in the balanced, and you still might, but I feel this tank, it just doesn't compete with T62 or 140 or any of the tank in the balanced list. So I'm going to put in the C category. Then we have K91. The tank got concealment buff. Finally, now it has the best concealment except UDIS 1516, but still it can outsmart UDIS 1516 because it has 20 meters better view range. And the way you outspot people is if you have the better, like the combination of concealment and vision is better than the other tank. And this tank has, I think, 2 or 3 meters worse concealment, but 20 meters better camo, base camo. And glad to see it finally got concealment buff, so I can truly play sniper. I wish this tank get better. Reload as well, like better than T62 and 140, but we'll have to wait for that another day, or if it gets a fully rotating turret, like PC. Next we have 430U, another 440 alpha tank that is just cursed. Has been nerfed multiple times, and with the buff to every other tank, over time this just keeps getting worse and worse. This tank definitely needs some love. 97, it is okay, but again, doesn't have the DPM, same alpha as T62 140, and it is just worse than them. No doubt, because without the gun depression, it's just hard. T22 medium. It is definitely the worst tank. Doesn't have anything, terrible gun handling, no gun depression, no alpha. It is worse than 97 as well, so another tank that needs desperate love. Leopard maintain its S tier spot because the tank was the first one to get the 420 alpha premium APCR. The gun just doesn't miss. Beautiful concealment, beautiful camo, speed. It has everything except armor and just dominates the battlefield. Then we have the second German medium, it's E50M, and it's going to be C tier because the tank for some reason didn't get the alpha buff. It still has a 390. It gets some gun handling buff and some HP buff, but it doesn't have enough armor or enough reliable armor to play as a brawling role, so you still get penned. You are big, you don't have concealments, you can't even do that. But so I wish the tank had a little bit more armor, at least the 420 alpha, to make it consistent. Why hate this tank? Then we have M40A5. We're going to put it on the A tier. Got the alpha buff. It has beautiful, beautiful gun. Decent camo because they got camo buff a while ago. Same thing with the M60. It's going to the A tier. It is even faster. So I would say M60 a little better than M48A5, but M48A5 does not have the hat. But M60 have the advantage when repositioning. But these tanks are just better compared to everything else in the balance or the B tier. So putting them on the A tier. Then we have T95E6, another tank which got the 440 alpha buff. And this tank also has everything, the mobility, the concealment, the DPM, and a dominating S tier tank. Then we have M48A2, another tank that got the alpha buff, has great DPM, doesn't have the camo, but just because it has gun depression DPM, I would say it's an A tier tank because you can pump out the damage really quickly. M48A2 is like worse than the other three, but I would still say it's better than the tank in the balance list just because of its DPM, but obviously a little bit the worst of all the A tier tanks and more closer to balance than any other tank. M47 Ernie, this tank, unfortunately, I would say you could put it in, I'm going to put it in C tier because the tank was decent or very solid when it came out, but over time, US mediums got the camo buff, they got the alpha buff, and even other tanks got the other buffs. This tank didn't. Now it's kind of C tier. You can still do well because it has DPM. It has that AP shell that has high shell velocity, same as the APCR. I might even put it into actually the balanced tank, but it cannot compete with the other US medium. So we can put it in the balance tank. It's there's somewhat workable around, but just because it's slow and doesn't have the concealment kind of makes it odd. But two things it has is that the gun depression and the fast AP does make this tank useful in a lot of situations. So because of the gun depression, we're going to move it up to balanced here. Then we have FV4202, the D tier tank. The tank never received any buff. It got slight buff this time, the alpha buff. But the thing is, the other British medium like Centurion got buffed in terms of accuracy, in terms of concealment, in terms of HP. The FV4202 used to have better concealment, but not anymore. Centurion is just miles better than this tank. This tank needs gun handling buff. It's fine to not have a premium shell, but at least give it the gun handling and the concealment buff so that it can at least play like Centurion in terms of repositioning, and maybe actually give it a speed as well. Then we have the Centurion Action 10, got another buff this time, the HP buff. The accuracy buff, it already had the concealment and beautiful gun handling. So this tank definitely up there at S tier after another buff, very, very strong tank, and it has the 10 degrees gun depression as well. And you just keep it singing, to keep the gun singing, because this tank got the 30 alpha buff from 390 to 420 and only 0.1 second off the reload buff or reload increase. And also had a first 10k in Centurion. If you haven't checked that out, that video, make sure to check that out. Then we have ABRE. Well, we can't put ABRE in any of this tiers because it is broken, and that's just a different tier. But they did say they're going to nerf, or maybe they're rebalance ABRE, so they're looking at it. Hopefully, it's some good rebalance. And that's it for this video. Do let me know in comments, what do you think about this list? Do you agree with my list? Do you think some tanks should be up tier up or tier low? Of course, everyone has their different preferences based on how they play, their play style. But this is what I feel. And if you have to grind for tanks, now you know which one to grind and what to expect, at least from my perspective. Of course, it's going to be different for different experience of players. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Do let me know in comments what you think about it. And of course, if you haven't checked out our community regiment or community Discord, make sure to check that out as well. Link in description. And I'll catch you in the next one.